We're out in the workshop today because I wanted to show you how to build your very own set of giraffe stilts. We use these in a production of The Lion King in a middle school play. And as we all know, the giraffes are the star of the show. And so you got to do it upright. Of course, that crazy singing monkey at the beginning isn't too bad either. But no stilts required for the monkey. So anyways, I'm going to walk you through how we went ahead and built these. And so maybe you can build your own set next time you're doing your own Lion King production. Or possibly just you want to be a giraffe for Halloween. I don't know. Anyways, let me dive into it and I'll show you how it's done. All right, let's take a look at the legs now, the front legs. Giraffes are four-legged creatures. We are not. So when you're trying to pretend to be one, you need something to simulate front legs. So this is basically made out of a piece of what I would call VG fur, vertical grain fur. It's straight grain fir wood, no knots. Knots would add a weak point, it might break. So you want to get the straightest, tightest grain wood you can find. That'll make a nice strong stilt for the front legs. This piece is about 1 inch thick here and 1.25 inches this way. It's pretty much what I had on hand. So use your judgment here. I wouldn't go any smaller than this. But you could probably go a little bit bigger and be okay. If they get too big, they get heavy. So that's something to think about as well. So anyways, 1 inch by 1.25 inches this way. Overall length from the foot up here to the top of the armrest is 50 inches. And about 38 inches up from the foot up here is the handle. So 38 to there and then another 12 to the end. Let me talk about the handle real quick. So the handle I made out of a piece of closet rod or dowel. It's again fir, tight-grained wood. You'd find this like in the hardware section where you'd hang up, where you'd buy to hang up your clothes. I turned a tenon on the end because the idea is if you're drilling a hole through this to mount this, you don't want a big hole. You just want enough to hold it in. And then the shoulder here, when that glues on, that will give you support when they're putting their weight on it to prevent it from snapping off. So I went with about a 5/8 tenon into my 1.25 inch side of the front leg. And then the handle overall is about 4 inches long. And make the tenon a little more than 1 inch so that when you glue it in, it sticks all the way through. And then you can go ahead once it's glue's dried and sand it off flush. On the foot end, you need something for traction. So we tried these out at home first, and they worked fine in the dirt or in the gravel, but any place with a slippery surface, concrete or a hard floor, wood floor, they would slide around. So what I found were these the rubber table legs or leg tips. So 1.25 inch size leg tips. The hardware store had these. These are round. These are rectangular shaped, but if you kind of whittle the end of the leg a little bit, you can make it sort of round, then you can squish it and shove them on there. And those seem to be holding up really well. You'd want to watch it, make sure that they're not wearing unevenly or getting too thin. But we've been through a couple plays with these sets, and they're still looking fine. So anyways, the table legs, rubber table legs, 1.25 inch diameter, seem to work good on the end of those. Up here at the top, so when there's stilts in action, move it like this. When it stilts in action, you're holding it like this, and this strap goes around your arm. Your arm goes in here. You grab onto the handle, and then you tighten it down with this Velcro strap. So the strap gives you some control over it, not just with your wrist, but your whole lower half of your arm, and now is one piece. So to build the strap, it's basically 2-inch Velcro, mostly the fuzzy side, a short little piece of a hook loop, so that when you wrap it around, it can stick to itself. And then on the other end, I put a little ring. I guess they have these in the little Velcro lashing strap area. That's just something you hook it through and then wrap it back around. And then to finish it off, to attach it to the stilt, I just used a couple of pan head screws, short ones, and if you have to, drill a little pilot hole in here so you don't split your wood because you're up towards the end of up towards the end of the stilt. You don't want to split that out. So it doesn't have to be real critical at that point. I mean, that's just really strapping the stilt to your arm. It's not under a lot of up and down force. Force is more going with the strap. So anyways, that was about it. So 50 inches overall length, inch thick, inch and a quarter. Inch and a quarter is nice because it was the same as the diameter of my handles. And so those lined up nice with the sides. 38 inches up about, and then 12 here. You know, if you have bigger kids or shorter kids, you may want to adjust the length accordingly. We eventually did trim a few of them to customize them to individual stilt walkers. I think we had 3. And then what we would do is we would label the sets, because once they were customized, we want to keep them all together. So this was part of the B set. We had 3 sets in our play. So anyways, that's the front leg. Okay, let's take a look at the back legs now. These are going to hold up most of your weight. So the overall assembly is a little bit beefier than the front legs. I think just as humans, we tend to put more of our weight on the back. Anyway, so let's see. To start with, you get the lower part of the leg here. So this is made out of a 2x4. The final dimensions down at the end here is 1.5 by 1.5. 2x4s are 1.5 thick. So you just kind of rip it down to another 1.5 the other way. I kind of flared this part a little bit so it would come up and support the foot area a little better. I think that's probably pretty critical because you do have a little bit of a bend here, a little bit of an angle to it. I don't think I measured the angle exactly, but it's about 20 degrees, 22 degree angle on that. And that's so that when you're walking as a giraffe, your back leg's kind of coming down more squared off with the ground. And that's just kind of typically how a four-legged animal looks, as their back legs kind of hook down a little bit. So you need to cut this at about a 22 degree angle, flare it a little bit, 1.5 inches. And I think overall I had from the bottom up to the top here was about 16 inches. We didn't want our stilt walkers to be way up there, but we want to give the right illusion of being a giraffe. So that seemed to work good for our middle school play. If you want to go a little taller, that'd be fine. Again, look for the straightest, clearest wood you can find. No knots would be great, and the straightest grain, tightest grain on this would be best. The little shoe platform I made out of a piece of Baltic birch, so it's 1/2 inch thick. Baltic birch is great because there's no voids in it, there's no knots in it, there's no empty spaces, so it's really strong for its thickness. You could probably substitute any old piece of 1/2 inch plywood here, would probably work fine. Let's see, overall length I had on that was about 11.5 from the heel to the toe, and about 3 3/4 wide. This one we kind of carved up to look a little bit like a foot. They honestly started out very rectangular shaped and then kind of got whittled down later to kind of dress them up a little bit. Not critical, but makes it look a little more finished. So 11.5 long and 3 3/4 wide and 1/2 inch thick. And then the part that attaches the stilt to your lower leg is your foot goes here, and then your ankle's in here, and then your calf is up in here. So this piece here is real critical. This is a piece of 3/4 plywood. Let me look here at my dimensions here. It's 3 inches wide and 21 inches long. And that sits at a 90 degree angle to the foot platform. So that just goes straight up off the foot, and the lower leg, again, is kicked out about 22 degrees. And this is a pretty critical piece. This is what really ties it all together. So this upper support is screwed in. I got 3 screws in here into this lower leg, which is made out of a 2x4, and then lots of glue in there as well, because you want this is what connects the lower angled leg to the stilt walker's leg. And then the foot platform has got a couple of screws going in down in here, also with plenty of glue on this bottom area to help give it some support. With your legs tied in here, your foot's not kind of roll, it doesn't have a tendency to roll at all, but still you don't want anything coming apart. So lots of glue, a couple good sized screws coming in from the top, and then again lots of glue and a couple 3 screws here to hold this together. So just like on the the front legs, we have these straps So these two up here on the calf and the ankle are the same as the front legs. They're 2 inches wide, mostly fuzzy Velcro, a little bit of hook, same loops, same way to connect them with the two pan head screws. So those two are exactly the same. You know, the ankle one could probably be a little smaller than the calf one, shorter. And then for some reason the toe one's got a little bit thinner. This looks more like 1.5 inch Velcro. It may have been just what we had, but you need something to hook their toe firmly onto the platform. So it's critical that their lower leg and this assembly is not moving relative to each other. So toe tight, ankle tight, calf tight, that kind of ties it all together. Now this set had been modified since last time I saw it, and somebody made this nice little heel stop. I'm assuming that's because we probably had a smaller stilt walker use these in the second play, and their foot was sliding off the back. So that's an option. It wasn't there originally, and it seemed to work okay. But again, that just looks like a piece of 2x4 that was kind of shaped nice, fit this nice. Probably some screws in through the bottom, and maybe a little bit of glue. Maybe no glue, so you could take it out later if you had a larger footed stilt walker. So anyways, that's most of the lower leg wooden assembly, and then like I mentioned on the front stilts, traction is a big issue, and same on the back, more so on the back, because when they're on stage they tend to walk on all fours because it looks much better, but when they're off stage they'll walk around just on their back feet, and so a lot of weight and pressure is put on this bottom part here, and you do not want one of these slipping out from under them. So what I used here was a mountain bike tire. So I had a mountain bike tire that I wasn't using, and so I cut off a strip, sliced it a little bit, and used those same panhead screws to attach it. So you got good mountain bike tire tread along the bottom, and then it wraps up around the sides. I also kind of rounded off the bottom of the 2x4 a little bit, just so that we didn't have any sharp corners sticking out. Because a sharp corner, when you're walking on it, if you're a little bit crooked, that's a place where you can kind of chip and fracture the wood. So if it's slightly rounded, not a lot, but just a little bit, it helps keeps the wood more intact, keeps it from splintering off. So anyways, I think that's the back leg assembly. I'm going to go ahead and insert some videos of these in action, and hope you have fun making your own. If for some reason you think it's too big of a challenge and you want, if you'd like, I could make you a set and send them to you. Just go ahead and send me a message or leave a comment below with your email address, and I'll get back to you with some timeline and prices. But I think this is something anybody could build. Definitely if you're doing like for a middle school play like we were, I'm sure your middle school woodshop teacher would be happy to help with something like this. And I'd be happy to help them if they had any questions. So anyways, that's it. That's how to build your very own set of giraffe stilts. And it was really a lot of fun. Kids seemed to enjoy it, and it really was a pretty big hit in our play. All right, thanks for watching.